Hello, today is May 29th, and today was a fairly good market in that it was had a lot of opportunities to enter the hook type trades, even though it was in a fairly large trading range on the 5-minute chart. The last video I made made the mistake of keeping the chart on my left side here set to 10 minutes, and I didn't realize the mistake until most of the way through the video. And that's a mistake I've never made before. I just had it set to 10 minutes, and the way I have my chart set up, I want to set to 5 minutes on the left side and the 1 minute chart on the right side. And it occurred to me that I really haven't explained in enough detail how I use the 5-minute chart, and it's such an incredible tool that I thought I would really emphasize that today, and how I'm using that to determine a trade that I make on a 1-minute chart. And because it is fairly complicated, I really have kind of shied away from talking about it because I don't want to confuse newer traders. And but I feel at this point it's reached a stage where you could probably comprehend what I'm doing with the 5-minute chart. And none of the rules change on the 1-minute chart. We're still using the same trade entry criteria, but the 5-minute chart will determine the bigger picture on how I trade the 1-minute chart. As usual, I've set the looking in the extended options menu here, I've set the buy bracket and the sell brackets with the sell stop loss order for the sell bracket or the buy bracket. I've set it to 5 points. That would be the sell stop, which is the stop loss. And for the sell bracket, we've set the stop loss at 5 points, and 5 points for the sell limit, 5 points for the buy limit. So we're still in enough volatility, I feel, to justify using 5-point targets. So having said that, I'll get the market started here. I'm using Market Replay again, and we'll start at 6:29, which would be California time, Pacific time, as the U.S. market opens. As always, I'm looking for the first fractal to form. By the way, I should mention, if you're kind of new to this, the term fractal was used, I think it's a confusing term, and I started using it because other people were using the term. All it means is that you have a high that is, if you're looking at a price bars, you have a high that's higher than the previous price bar and the following price bar, and it stands out sort of like if you're looking at the middle finger in a hand. The middle finger would be the longest finger, especially in a male hand, and they call that a fractal. And the same thing if you were to look at on the short side, a low that's lower than the previous low and lower than the following low is considered a fractal. And for some reason they use that term, and it's just, I know it's a confusing term, but that's all it really means. It's just a point that's higher than the previous point and the following point, or a point that's lower than the previous point and the following point. So yeah, that's a confusing term, but that's what we're looking for on the first opening move here. And because we're initially going down, I'm assuming you don't really want to make an assumption yet, but it looks pretty. It looks like the market's heading downward, but as the U.S. market opens, it takes on a whole different characteristic than it had before the open. So you got to be really careful in making an assumption. That's why you want to wait for some development to occur first before making a decision. So usually I'll let the first minute after the U.S. Open pass. That might have been a good long trade if we traded the momentum here, but since I'm using 5-point targets, that would have just barely hit the target, and it's not really a fractal yet. Often the markets are a little bit perverse in that they open one direction, but you'll get a crossover like this, and they'll start moving the other direction. Okay, I'll pause it there. And as you can see what's happening on the 5-minute chart, it's still the same price bar over here on the left side. And we're starting to bend that ADMA line down on the 5-minute chart. And we're crossing over on the 1-minute chart. So this really isn't this is kind of a fractal point right here, and if this bar stays higher than this low here, or this low of this bar stays higher than this low, I would consider this fractal. And then if we stay on this side of the market that the ADMA line's on, I'd want to take a short trade. So I'm already anticipating that entry, even though this is not really a well-formed fractal because we're using partly the market as it looked before the open. But as always, I'm trying to trade momentum here, and I'm trying to trade the crossover if it occurs on the 5-minute chart. Okay, see how we have the open of this price bar right here is down near the lower Bollinger Band. Generally, I don't like to buy or sell near the Bollinger Band, but as a new market opens, that Bollinger Band is really going to move until the trend's established. So even though it looks like it's close now, if it were to come back through it and head back down, it'll look like it's closer to the ADMA line. But what I'm doing here is I'm not immediately selling at that point at the previous close. If you look on the 1-minute chart, I'm not automatically selling at that. What I'm doing is I'm waiting for it to come back to the ADMA line, sort of like a tag, touch the ADMA line and come close, and then come back through the previous close, and that'll be momentum entering that trade. Well, I didn't want to hit sell yet until so I didn't probably wait enough, but see how the Bollinger Band is bending downward. So what I really did is trade on momentum using this fractal right here as criteria. And see what we're doing here on the 5-minute chart. It's coming down. It's bending the ADMA line down. It looks like it's going to try to cross over on the 5-minute chart. And we already see the support is over here at 5:50 a.m. on the 5-minute chart, and we've got a resistance area. So I pretty much know it's going to be a trading range type of day because we're bounded by support and resistance. And see how now this right down here I can't enter the market because see how it's actually falling below the Bollinger Band. I have to wait for the next fractal to form there, or what I call hooks, and it would have to come above the previous high, form a high point, and then head back down. And that would be my criteria for entering the next trade, as long as it was close, as long as the entry was close to the ADMA line. And I know it's tempting to sometimes you want to just have a discipline not to enter at the Bollinger Band. I only did it here because it was an emerging trend. But see how the previous entry, what looked like it was close to the Bollinger Band, because we're pulling the Bollinger Band line down. Now that looks like it was right on the ADMA, the last entry. So that's really not a good enough signal. It's so far away from the Bollinger Band that to enter that previous close here, I want to see it closer to the Bollinger Band, and again it's going to come up and try to almost touch it, and then I want to trade momentum coming back down through the previous close. You know, see, they're kind of scary, but you have the confidence in seeing that this the trend is new, and you see that this ADMA line is angling outward. Initially, you're not sure because it's just all over the place. And early on in the day, when it's fairly active, you'll just get all sorts of movement, but don't let that scare you there. So now we're looking at the 5-minute chart. We see it's down on the Bollinger Band here. We can't be a seller here. The way you use the 5-minute chart is the same trading decisions that you would make on the 1-minute chart. You want it close to the 8MA, for example, to be a seller. So it's so far down below here in the Bollinger Band that I don't want to be a seller until I get a retracement up there. But if we get a breakout below that, okay, we just got a breakout below the support here. So that's a significant point right there. See how it broke below the support area? I still don't want to be a seller because we're getting, if you look on the 1-minute chart, it's falling below the lower Bollinger Band, and I only want to sell or buy on that ADMA line or as close as possible. So yeah, you could say, well, it's broken below support, but I'm going to need to see it come back a little bit and then try to head for that breakout again. Okay, so let's continue it here. Just kind of analyzing it as I go here. This is the same analysis I would use in a live trade, so that's all I'm trying to really show. Just the procedure of the rules in making a trade. Or the thought process. You can see it's also trying to dip into that below the oversold area on the stochastic chart, on the 5-minute chart, or the stochastic graph here. See the green line here? That would be the oversold. And it does, this would be the sell cycle. Right there, if I was really quick, I might have got in at the Bollinger Band right there, but I'm going to try to get in at the close of this price bar. Again, it's made a it's close to the lower Bollinger Band, but at least okay. So see how it came back? It's coming back towards, now it's moving. That wasn't exact. I tried to enter it right on the previous close here, so I'm a little bit late in that entry. But what I was looking for was the momentum as it comes back down, as after it creates the fractal point here. See how that high is higher than the previous high, and so what I'm doing is I'm trading momentum going into this breakout that you see occurring on the 5-minute chart, the break below support here. And there's nothing I'm doing differently here than I would do in a live trade. Same rationale. Often it's uncanny how it will come right to your target, and just as if that was a chosen for you or something. I don't know why it does that, but often it'll come right to the target and bounce off of it. It does that in live trading as well. So all you can do right now, since we're trading targets and not trailing stop losses, I could have shown the trailing stop loss entry, but because this opened up in a trading range on the 5-minute chart, I felt it was better just to trade the targets. I also don't want to complicate things. It's complicated enough showing the 5-minute chart technique, and so I don't want to confuse a couple issues at once here. What I'm noticing here on the 5-minute chart is, see how it's closed beyond that Bollinger Band? Well, if you get a close outside it or below it like that, if you see where I am on the 5-minute chart with a cursor, and then you're getting a reversal back up through it, that's a really good indication. You're looking at a possible trend change here. You're also getting the same reversal over here, so this is a heads up alert to a trend change. We see to go short again on the 5-minute chart, we're going to need it to travel all the way up to that 8 EMA line, so we've got a good distance up before I feel comfortable going short again. So what I'm starting to look for here is a 1, 2, 3 low pattern on the 1-minute chart. See how we got a breakout above previous resistance of the previous price bar, the high of the previous price bar. As always, if it is a trend change, and this is a fairly large pullback or retracement when compared, if you look at the previous hook, we had the number 1 point here, the number 2 point here, number 3 point, or P3 point as I call it, and this hit all the way down to the next target, which was longer than this target from here to here. This distance from here to here is longer, and the way I see this working is it's a little bit like a rubber band. If you it'll try to equalize and come back, and we'll get a fairly long pullback. I'll have to explain that better. But see how we're forming off this reversal here. What's a reversal on the 5-minute chart? We're seeing it form into a small 1, 2, 3 bottom formation here on the 1-minute chart. Now if I see it come back up and take out that what would be the number 2 point of a 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, and it starts to really bend that ADMA line upward, I'll be a buyer here. So what I'm really doing is I'm buying the retracement swing of the 5-minute chart. I'm anticipating the breakout of this high right here, this 5-minute bar. In a live market, these timers up here on the top of the chart are going to be accurate, but right now they're not accurate because they're showing the current market that's actually open right now, but they're not showing the replay market. But this is what you would be looking at to know how much time you have left of the current price bar in a live trade. These top timers here, and they're really useful. But I expect we'll get another price bar opening here on the 5-minute chart. It'll take out this previous close to the upside here, and we're just getting in a little bit ahead of it, anticipating a move back to the ADME line on the 5-minute chart. Okay, so we hit a flat Bollinger Band, and or it's not even flat, it's actually descending. So anytime that happens, I know we're pretty much in a trading range, so I'd want to apply trading range type rules. It's a large trading range. They come in all different sizes, but trading range rules are basically I can't trade the hook formations, even though trends do occur in a larger trading range. I'm going to trade the bias I'm seeing on the 5-minute chart, which is towards the downside, even though I'm trading a retracement pattern. Again, I know I sound like I'm making contradictions, but I'm trying to explain the process as best I can, because it is complicated, and That's why I hesitated to talk about 5-minute chart trading um, until we learn the basic techniques. But I might as well add that in there, even though, because I want to show where I'm trying to go with this. As far as I know, it's fairly unique. I'm the only one I know that uses this technique, using the 5-minute chart and the 1-minute chart side by side. And other traders may do it, but I just haven't heard of it. Anybody write about it or talk about it. Now, if this were to start, let's say, moving upward and break above this resistance area, this last high here, and we can see the market in general is sideways. If you look on the 5-minute chart, it's moving sideways. That tells me it's a large trading range, and so I'm not going to try to go long at this next price bar, especially until I see it hit the 80 MA line. When that hits the 80 MA line on the 1-minute chart and is starting to curve downward, that tells me what it's wanting to do. You know, if it's starting to curve downward, I'm saying, okay, I'm expecting a reversal, as you would expect in a trading range. And again, we're getting confirmation of that on the 5-minute chart. See how we have basically it's a large 1, 2, 3 point, and this 3 point is probably going to be a fractal here. See, it's higher than the previous high, and so if we get a new bar on the 5-minute chart that's lower, we can trade through the previous close in a down trade. I know I want to trade this side of the market still, because that's the side the 80 MA line is on, the 14 of the 14 simple moving average line. It's still pointing downward, and I'm not totally convinced to go short yet, because we're still angling up here on the 1-minute chart, and we haven't had a 1, 2, 3 formation yet. But look how it's pulling the 5-minute chart down. That says you're not ready to go long here yet, until you get that crossover happening on the 5-minute chart, or upward movement. So all these things right here. Okay. I'm still waiting for a better crossover on the 1-minute chart, but that's a signal that's pretty convincing that it's going to try to go short here. If you look what's happening in the 5-minute chart, that's heading down. It's pulling the 80 MA line outward from the 14 SMA, and the same criteria that you would use on the 1-minute chart for trading. You have to think about the 5-minute chart in the same way. Where I'd want to enter the short trade here would be right at the 80 MA line as it's moving downward. So we have all this information to keep us from making the mistake of going long here. You see it's in a trading range. We see that the 5-minute chart is actually moving downward, even though this seems in conflict here. Okay, so see what I'm anticipating a breakout of this support right here of this previous bar, even though we haven't had a full crossover here. That's on the 1-minute chart. That's looking pretty weak, and we also have a break below support here. I know I've said before to wait till that crossover fully occurs, and that's probably the best policy, but I'm just trying to show how you can get more information by looking at the 5-minute chart. See, we have the break out of the low here. That's a break below support, previous support. And that means it has good momentum going to the downside. We almost hit the target here. It's a good policy to keep your cursor on the exit the market button. Okay, we got that target hit. I hope you see now that none of this is really random. Okay, so if you look at where the cursor is, I mean the current tick is on the 5-minute chart. It's down here near the 5-minute lower Bollinger Band. The same criteria applies. I can't be a short trader until it comes up close to that ADMA line. So that tells me not to take the short trades on the 1-minute chart either. So I want to see a movement back towards the ADMA line. If I'm going to go short, I need to see movement back through the previous close after it tags the ADMA line on the 5-minute chart, which if you were to project it, we're getting close to that area right here. And look what it's doing on the, it's making a fractal on the 1-minute chart. So we're going to continue, I think, a crossover here. But I can't assume that that's a number P3 point yet to the downside. Still too close to that Bollinger Band on the 5-minute chart. And we're flat trading range. Not only that, now the Bollinger Bands are bending upward. So looks like we're going to form a fractal here. And I'm not sure that that's the P3 point yet. Might get a little bit upward movement here to form a hook. These are just the thoughts that are going through my head as I'm watching this market. See this bottom Bollinger Band on the 1-minute chart? It's angling upward. That tells me I probably don't want to take that trade, even though that might work out, but again, I'm not sure this is a P3 point yet here. Ideally, to get in a trade the right direction, you want that Bollinger Band to start blossoming out here. We know that it's probably going to get down to this low here. If you look at previous support around 72.12 on the 1-minute chart, where the bottom of the market, the red dashed line is here. See, that would have worked out, that trade right here. 753. If I traded at 753, well, that's a 4-point target. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, that would hit a 5-point target there. But you know, better to err on the side of caution. I'm also seeing a 1, 2, 3 bottom formation on the 5-minute chart. but it is heading up towards the 8 EMA in the 5-minute chart. See on these price bars where they're reversal bars, where the low is lower than the high here. That I don't want to enter in the. I wouldn't want to enter in the short direction with the bar moving the opposite direction I want to trade. But I still know I've got to trade this side of the market because of where the 8 EMA line is. I just don't want to see it bending upward like that. So basically we're in a sideways congestion zone right there. You've got support here. You've got resistance up here. It's a very short congestion area. I can't go long because we're still on the 8 EMA line is on the bottom side of the market. So a lot of these periods a lot of trading is just knowing when not to take a trade, even though that would have worked out at the crossover, at the 8 EMA crossover. That would have hit a 5-point target if I went short right on the line there. I just couldn't do that at the time by where the tick was on the 5-minute chart. But you know, if this market opened at 6:30, so we're only 30 minutes into the day here, and we're already up 5:15, just following some really safe conservative rules here. Looks like it's trying to form a 1, 2, 3 that's but it's not you wouldn't want to go long until it crossed over here on the 1-minute chart, and look where it's still generally, the 8 EMA line is still generally down on the 5-minute chart. So if we trade below this close right here, you know, if you have a bar that comes up against the 8 EMA line and then trades back through the close on the 5-minute chart, that would be a signal to go short, concurrent with what's happening on the 1-minute chart. So yeah, this can test your patience here. See how it's really hesitant to cross over to the upside? Anytime it does that, I get a little bit leery. This could be a 1, 2, 3 bottom, but for that to be tradable, I'd want to see it full crossover first, because the hook is actually on the other side of the market here, and it's not consistent with the 5-minute chart. Again, can't trade this area because we're too far away from the 8 EMA line on the 5-minute chart. So this is a good example of how it keeps you out of trouble too, by reading the 5-minute chart well. See how that was a good trade entry on the 5-minute chart right here for a short trade entry at 72.31 as it passed through the 8 EMA line. Could have gone short here but the bar is a reversal bar. And I can't take the long trade here. That's a crossover, because the 5-minute still pointed downward. See how the conflict exists there? Now we had an entry right here at 7229 on the 5-minute chart. See how that, but I'm not really happy with what it's doing on the, I want to see them in agreement here. we've got a crossover to the upside on the 1 minute chart, but a trade entry signal on the 5 minute chart to the downside. So I'm going to wait for that to reverse on the 1 minute chart and then be a seller here. Because I want to do what the 5 minute chart's doing. That's the bigger picture here. See how we're heading downward on the ADMA line here. In fact, it's angling outward, and so that tells me not to take this crossover on the 1 minute chart. Hope you see how that works. So I want to see some good momentum, even though this is, I'm expecting this Bollinger Band to curve downward. See how I had to break out below that low here? And we're selling a little bit low in that range here, but I'm anticipating a breakout of that low on the 5 minute chart and a breakout below the previous open on the 5 minute chart. We got a couple points here that I'm trying to capture the momentum as we trade through. Okay. Probably got lucky that I hit that target. You know, if the day was less volatile than it is, I might not have hit that and have to be ready on that exit at the market button. So that, as you can see, that was a fairly tough section right there. Really ambiguous, but by reading what's happening here on the 5 minute chart, I was able to stay out of most of that, and that could get traders in trouble right there. This area right through here. That was a tough area by any standard. That's a difficult area to read right through here. From around 6:51 in the morning to about 7:01. That's flat, sideways, and basically a congestion zone. But I was able to stay out of it by just sticking to the signals I'm seeing on the 5 minute chart. Ideally, I should have gone short at around 7:229 here, but I was seeing conflicting signals on the 1 minute chart, so I had to wait till that was an agreement before taking the trade, which is a breakthrough of support here. Okay. So I'm still seeing a big 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, or 1, 2, 3 low formation on the 5 minute chart. But until I start seeing this ADMA line start closing in towards the 14 SMA on the 5 minute chart, not sure I want to be long. I need to see a fractal to the upside here. See, if we were to draw a line, this is the low 1, the number 2 point. If we drew a line from here to here, and then from here to here, we see it's formed a lower than the previous low, so that would be considered an intermediate low point. And if I start seeing movement upward and in agreement with what I'm seeing on the 1 minute chart, I'm going to be interested in being long here. And we are seeing a crossover to the upside here. I want to see that really cross over well, and then see another bar move up here. So it definitely crossed over here. Now it's got to be close to that ADMA line and in agreement with what's happening on the 5 minute chart before I would feel like entering that. Okay. See how we broke above the high here of this price bar? Looks like I'm entering. That's probably a bad entry. I should have waited till it was a little closer to the 80 MA line, but we've got an emerging trend. It's heading into resistance here, but yeah, so that's a little bit of a gamble. I probably deserve to get my stop loss hit for entering so late, so close to the Bollinger Band. But that's what I got from being impatient. I should wait for this movement downward and then move back up through the previous close. See how I didn't wait, and I got in way too late on that entry here. But I'm trying to trade the breakout we see on the 5-minute chart as it brings that 80 MA line back towards the 14 SMA line on a breakout here, with the overall 1, 2, 3 in mind. And then we're getting breakout of resistance here. Wow, yeah, that is complicated to explain. That so many factors happen there at once. It's hard to even describe it verbally. You can you see what I'm seeing here, that this emerging trend and the widening Bollinger Bands, after going through a period of constriction here, now they're widening out, and it's consistent with break to the upside on the 5-minute chart here. And I'm just going to be really, really patient till I get a fractal. So I'll just go ahead and speed it up, I think. Rather than be patient. Okay. Still not out of the trading range. You see that the overall range is still in a trading range there. Trying to analyze it. I still think it's coming over. We're on the if you look at the 80 AMA line on the 5-minute chart, it looks like it's still moving towards the 14 SMA line. And so let's see more development occur on the 1-minute chart. That's a big 1, 2, 3, but it fell back below. And since we're flat, I'm not seeing enough space each side of this line to consider going long or short here. We're still flat. That could be a setting up for a trade to the downside here. But if you look at this cycle here, it's telling me it's trying to go long in the 5-minute chart. So that, yeah, right here is a difficult area, which anytime you get ambiguity, it just tells you to stay out of it. Okay, now we've really got it. It's telling us what is happening here on the 5-minute chart. It was being a little bit vague there, but right now we've got a definite upturn, definite upward movement. And I think I'd like to see the next price bar take out that previous close, and then I'd be long. But I'm going to have to see it come back and hit that 8 EMA line on the 1-minute chart here. Alright, so now it's moving back towards the ADMA line. If we get a thrust back up through that previous close, I think I want to be a buyer because it's consistent with what's happening here on the 5-minute chart. Okay, so let's let that continue at normal speed here. That doesn't look like it would work out, but you know, again, I got in too early, which is typical of reality, by the way. This is what I do. I often still make mistakes on the timing, so I'm still a student of that. But you see, we got the direction correct here, and it's right at the resistance where the target is, and it's also right at the high of that previous price bar on the 5-minute chart. It just broke through that high, broke through the resistance here. So that is a very good signal. Again, that was extremely difficult trade to enter. We're trading really the upward movement of this ADMA line through the previous close of that on the 5-minute chart of the previous price bar, and as it crosses over on the 5-minute chart. And so you kind of have to be aware of all that as it's happening. And I realized it was very difficult. This was a difficult day, no question about it, because it's very ambiguous. So what I do in it now, we're officially in a trend here. And we're still a giant trading range, but it's a trend within a trading range, if that makes any sense. If the trading range were smaller, I would use trading range rules, but since this is trending right here above a breakout of resistance, I'm going to go ahead and look for a hook type trade. Right now we're at 855. In actual trading, it might be a little bit less because of commissions, but not much. So that's pretty close to what we'd actually be doing. We're getting outside the upper Bollinger Band here. We know we can't be a buyer here, but we're also getting a break above the previous high of the previous price bar on the 5-minute chart, and we've got the new 5-minute bar so that's kind of one of my rules here. Can't buy at the Bollinger Band, so I want to see some movement down below that, but might not get it. Okay, I'm gonna probably we got a number 3 point here. If we get a move back up through this, I'm gonna trade the based on the breakout of the high here on momentum. There we go. So that looks like it's breaking the Bollinger Band rule. But look what we're looking at the 5-minute chart. We've got all that momentum upward. So I probably get... boy, I wouldn't recommend a trader do this right here because that violates the major rule. I'm not trading at the Bollinger Band, but I'm basing it on what's happening in the 5-minute chart. We've got all that movement upward. We're in an emerging trend. See how that ADMA is angling outward? And we just broke through major resistance. So that's got a lot of good momentum to it. But came right up to my target. And look how it's bouncing there. Get the cursor on the exit at the cancel button. As I should have any type of risky trade like that, always keep the cursor on the exit of the market button right here. It's lit up in blue. It's a handy feature of this particular platform. Looks like it's going to hit it. Okay, this is one of those do as I say, don't do as I do kind of moments here, because look how that entry was right at the upper Bollinger Band, but I was playing the momentum here. First it came down on this price bar here, 716, and then it moved back up because it had that upward movement, and it was concurrent with a breakout of the high of the previous price bar on the 5-minute chart. That convinced me to take that trade. I don't think I did this in the live trading just because I wanted to stick to the rules, but I just want to show how the 5-minute chart really tells you the truth of what's happening here. So that's a good demonstration of that, even though it's in violation of one of my main rules here. So yeah, I just thought I'd show it. Let's speed that up again so I don't bore everybody completely if I haven't already. Yeah, I'm looking for the same thing I always look for, like that. A breakout of the low of the previous price bar. But look what's happening here on the 5-minute chart. We're closing outside the upper Bollinger Band, and we're bouncing back down, trading right back through it on a reversal bar. So I know I've got a long way to drop here. So don't be in a rush to go long on that 1-minute chart. Especially here, I need to see it not only hit that ADMA line on such a large drop. A large drop like this, which is the distance from the breakout of this low to the ADMA line, would be considered a large drop, and that's usually an indication of a imminent trend reversal. So you got to be really cautious, and if I'm going to trade this back up in the long direction, it's going to have to really establish a P3 point and then trade right back up through that ADMA line here. So this is really a caution zone, but you can tell it's telling you what it's doing here on the 5-minute chart. It's bouncing off the upper Bollinger Band after a close outside. It's reversing back through it. So everything about this price bar right here says you don't want to be long here. So I'm wondering if I missed I probably should have been long here at the new bar, but that was hard to get into since I had it sped up. Even though we're not really angling upward here, we had some movement below the, if you look at the 5-minute chart, we had some movement below the previous close, and then it moved right back up through it with momentum. So we're also using the close and opens as breakout points in terms of the 5-minute chart. And ideally, on the 1-minute chart, I should have entered right there. So let's see if I can still get in on that, even though we're losing volatility here. That's why if you're going to take both of these trades are risky, but if you're going to take a risk, you want to get on that ADMA line as close as you can. See, again, these last two trades here were probably trades I shouldn't be taking because it's angling inward towards that 14 SMA line. That's usually an indication you don't want to try trading that. You want to look for the crossover. So yeah, I'm breaking some rules. And if my at this point though, we're in reality, if this were a live trade, I'd be looking at $1,000 profit. So I might decide I can be a little bit riskier. That's a judgment call I often make as well. So yeah, it's really looking bad. Like a crossover is occurring here. I'm just hoping for another thrust upward on the 5-minute chart. Past this, we've got a good momentum upward. I just entered it. I should have entered right at that open here. I should have my cursor there in case that target doesn't get hit. If that doesn't look like a crossover, I don't know what does. Here, I'll just bring the stop loss a little bit closer for protection there. That way I won't take much loss if that reverses on me and heads down. Okay. That was, that's why you don't want to break the rules too often, because you just go through periods of anxiety like that. But I'm still seeing this angle inward, and I don't know how much more it has left. It's right up against the upper Bollinger Band here on the 5-minute chart. So we know we can't be long again if we want to stick to the rules. So I'm just going to not trade until I see both of these cursors head back to the ADMA line on both charts. I didn't mean cursor. I mean tick of the tick that's the current tick. I want to see it close to these ADMA lines on both charts before I feel comfortable entering a trade, because that's a protection that normally gets you out of keeps you from trading at bad points. You know, got to stick to that rule about not trading at the Bollinger Band line that I just broke over here. The only reason I broke it because we were in a steep trend, had a lot of momentum. We're in a breakout of resistance, but normally, as you see, it kind of the momentum's kind of fading off, and we're hitting resistance areas here. You don't want to be a buyer at that upper Bollinger Band. No reason to risk things here. In fact, I'll increase it to 2 contracts just to make it more exciting. Since we're now at $1,000, we'll go ahead and add another contract to the trade. That could be a P3 point, but look where the previous close is. I don't want to enter. Whoop! I accidentally, for some reason, why did that reject my order? I don't know. That's a situation where my index finger had too much pressure on the mouse. Okay. Still looks like congestion. I'm not seeing a solid P3 point. And I'm still seeing the on the 5-minute chart, it's right up against that upper Bollinger Band. And it's just the momentum's kind of petering out, because we're up against, if you look at, well, if this were a previous resistance right here, we're not really breaking above that too well. So this is sort of acting like a ceiling or a resistance area. If you can really see it here on the 1-minute chart. If my cursor is set at a ceiling, it looks like it's not making it through that too well. So I really got to see it trade at the 80 MA line. Sorry about that. It's the springs in my chair making a creaky noise. I know this is like watching paint dry, but that's the real world. It's not always exciting. I think the numbers are exciting, but with trading, there's just so much of wading through areas until you get a really solid signal. Unless I were to speed it up here, but I don't want to miss the next opportunity. See how we're seeing this bar? We're seeing it move downward on the 5-minute chart. If we were to see a breakout below that low here, consistent with a formation here on the 1-minute chart, like a 1, 2, 3 top, and then a breakout below that low back to the 80 MA line, that would be a good trade entry signal. That's how I would use the 5-minute chart in this case. In general, you want to, I'm always looking for retracement below the breakouts of highs or lows if the bars are close to the Bollinger Band and they're away from the P3, I mean the 80 MA line. As you see here, there's real good distance here. So if it were to break below this low, that's a good signal to get short. And I'm going to look for a corresponding formation on the 1-minute chart, like a crossover or a 1, 2, 3 high. The truth is about trading, the markets are just giving you so much information. They're telling you exactly what to do. It's just we're not. We have to really get good at reading it, but they're not really giving you any surprises. They're telling you what it's doing. It's telling me it's kind of sputtering and petering out. It doesn't want to move upward. You see how slow that is, and if a low below, okay, a move below that, I was going to say below that support here, is concurrent with what you see here, a breakout below that low of that bar here, and I'm expecting to drop to that 80 MA line on the 5-minute chart. And it's also, we're getting a small 1, 2, 3 high signal. See, all those signals are coming into play all at once. You get multiple signals like that. That's a good indication. Even though this is flat, we're trading into a flat Bollinger Band here. Which is where I would expect the bounce. It's going to play with me a little bit. Live trading, I would always have my cursor on the exit in case that wants to reverse, and at least I would get out at some profit there. I still think it's got a little bit in it though. See how it's always good policy to wait for it to try to get back to the 80 MA line and then fall back through or if we're in a short trade, fall back through the previous close. That's an indication of momentum right there, even though it's moving much slower. You don't want to think of momentum as you would in normal physics, having speed. Sometimes it's like watching molasses, or slow motion, but it's still momentum. And reverse that if you want to look for the same things in an upper trade. Let me look through previous periods here. Well, right here was a good indication of where we got in that trade at the Bollinger Band. It had momentum down and then momentum right back through the previous close, and so that got me into that trade, even though that was a violation of the rules. But here we see it pull back to the 80 MA line and then pull right through that previous close there. That's where you normally would probably try to enter that. I entered it at the breakout of the number 2 point of the 1, 2, 3 high. So and the volatility is really falling off, so let's see how that works out. Again, it hit my target exactly. And it's almost like I have an invisible force that tells me to place the target at the exact point it wants to go. It's uncanny how I do that. Okay, so this could be an emerging trend if this Bollinger Band starts to spread out again or bail outward. But I'm going to need to see the typical things we look for if it was an emerging trend. If it came back up and then formed another 1, 2, 3, I'd say we're in a shorter trading range. But if this is an emerging trend, Bollinger Band will start to bail out. We're up against support here on the 5-minute chart. See those two bars here? They're support. A breakout of that support would be significant, pulling this ADMA line down on the 5-minute chart. So the breakout of support there is a significant move. But we're still going to have to see it be close to the ADMA line on the 1-minute chart. Those rules are still in effect. Okay, we really got good support right through here, where I've got my cursor line, and you can see it's just absolutely dead flat on the Bollinger Band. We've got a reversal bar here. Again, if it breaks through support here, it'll be breaking through the support on the 5-minute chart, pulling that ADMA line down. So yeah, I'm going to get prepared. We might just get a P3 point out of that. Okay, I'm not going to enter there because I don't know if this is until I see movement. I want to see momentum right back down through this. See how we're starting to widen out in the Bollinger Band? This could be an emerging trend right here if we get a breakout below that support. Now we're getting momentum back into that previous close. Even though there's not room to that Bollinger Band, I'm going to anticipate that breakout. So I'll just go ahead and do it. Now remember, we're trading 2 contract lots here, so our stakes just got a lot bigger here. Got the breakout. See the breakout here? Any time you get a breakout of support or resistance, that's an indication of a lot of momentum. So that's what I'm attempting to trade there. Came back and touched the ADMA line, fell back through the previous close, and I got in a little bit late. But that was a good trade, obviously. So now that we know we're in a trend, having just broken below support, we're in a downtrend, I'm going to look for the things I look for in trends, which are hook formations, P3 points. Oh boy, missed that one. This is really anywhere along the ADMA line, since we're in a fairly steep line that's angling outward. You can make a sale anywhere in that line, you're probably going to do well. So knowing this, I'm going to try to enter as close to that line as I can. So that looks like a P3 point right there. Now it's flat, and I'm going to want to see it move back down to show me it has momentum before I assume that's a trade in the short direction. And I'm looking what it's doing here on the 5-minute chart. So yeah, this on the 5-minute chart. That's going to have to fall back through that previous low before that's going to feel like convince me it's going short. So there's some ambiguity going on right here. I'm not going to. That's definitely an upward move. So yeah, it's not tell me to do nothing right now. Could be a bounce back upward on the. It's bouncing right back to the support area. So that first one may have been a false breakout. Let's see if it breaks back through again. Oh boy, that was iffy trade right there. I see now it was correct, but yeah, I probably should have waited till I had much more of a. Yeah, right there would be the time to enter. I want to trade the breakout of that support right here. So I probably should have entered at 745 on this bar, trying to take advantage of this breakout through the previous close here. So I'm having to wait a little bit through a little bit adverse movement. Right here is where it would have been better to enter that trade, even though it's farther away from the ADMA line. Yeah, see, now we're probably going to get a lot of momentum because we broke through that support. So I'm always looking at support areas, big and small. They come in all sizes, support and resistance. So even though this looked really sketchy right through here, that looks like a congestion right there. We've got a steep line, and I was trying to trade the breakout, break back through this line. You know, we get momentum upward, and we broke back through the previous close here, and I knew it was really, really good when we had momentum going back through that support area. If I had traded here, I would have had to wait through. I guess it's the best policy was trade close to the ADMA line as possible. Kind of took the compromise there. Okay, we're looking for the same thing, P3 point. Getting a little bit of a rounding spoon shape here. That's often a sign of a trend reversal, but the 5-minute chart is still telling me that it's making an adverse movement right now into the long direction. But look where that ADMA line is trying to come down towards the crossover. So let this play itself out, and then I'm going to try to take advantage of what's happening on the 5-minute chart here. So I'm gonna need to see it fall back through previous close. We've got decreasing volatility on the Bollinger Bands converging. Normally this would look like a possible trend change here. I'm just seeing. Okay, got to break out through that support here. That could have been a mistake. I'm taking a lot of gambles with two contract trading that I probably shouldn't trade here. But look what I'm looking at the on the 5-minute chart. It fell back through the previous close and broke back through the support of the previous price bar, the low. And we're bringing the Bollinger Band, the ADMA line to the crossover point. Just broke through the 14 SMA line. So all those signals in the 5-minute chart tell me that that's trying to move downward. And now we're getting the outer Bollinger Band, or lower Bollinger Band, moving outward. So we might pull back to the. Again, my timing was too early. Can't go wrong by sticking to trading on that ADMA line, even though that might have been a trend reversal. I'm just getting in the trade too close to that Bollinger Band, as you see right here, because I'm looking at the if you look at the 5-minute chart, I'm right on the money as far as the breakout of that low. That's what I was trying to trade there, but timing's a little off on the 1-minute chart. I just like what's happening now, because Bollinger Band is trying to turn outward again after a constriction area. It's trying to move outward, but no question about it, this is a little bit of a congestion area here, and so I traded inside congestion. That was a risky trade. I probably didn't need to make that type of risk. But what happened here is you got the breakout below the support point here, and which is the equivalent of that support point here on this previous price bar on the 5-minute chart. So we're in the middle of a move outward, so I know I can't be a seller here. So let's just speed that up. We had a reversal back up through the Bollinger Band here. Probably the best thing to do would be to wait for the new bar on the 5-minute chart and just trade the move as it trades through here, that previous close, which will probably be consistent with a pullback to the ADMA line on the 1-minute chart. Okay, looks like it's trying to make a. There we go. There's the new P3 point. I don't like it when P3 points are equal. I like to see one stick above the other. So obviously what I'm trying to do is, probably should enter the trade right there, as close to that ADMA line as possible. but I don't want to. I want to wait for a P3 point to form, and I wasn't happy with being at the same height as that one, so that looks like a P3 point to me right there. And so on the next bar, if it trades through that ADMA line again and the previous open, it's going to pull that pull the ADMA line back down into the downtrend. And I'm trying to trade the breakout through that previous close on the 5-minute chart here. See that? I know we've got a good distance to the next support level here, or the outer Bollinger Band on the 5-minute chart, the lower Bollinger Band. So that's a good distance to try to capture right there. Even though it's pretty slow, still not out of the congestion zone right here. Just that looks like a breakout through support. And okay, it's not making it easy to hit these targets, but still hitting them. So I'm thinking, at this point, we've got probably till at least this, see where the support level is on the 5-minute chart, left to travel in this downtrend. Like I said, it's a downtrend, but it's in the context of a larger range. All markets are in some range at one level or another, but my range trading rules, what I'm usually talking about there, are tighter ranges. This is it's a larger overall range, as you see on the 5-minute chart, but it's a trend within a range. Okay, so did I just missed that one? No, I just that's the one I just got. As you can see, I could have entered a breakout below that support as well. Didn't have to enter right on that ADMA line, but a breakout below the support, showing that it had momentum, would have got it as well. Okay, let's speed it up a little bit. See how that might have been a good trailing stop loss trade, anticipating that it was going to try to come back and hit support levels. As you see on the 5-minute chart, you see where the support level is right there. It's almost at it right now. So I'm expecting a bounce right about here, even though you can't see it on the 1-minute chart. You sure see the support levels where they are on the 5-minute chart, so you'd expect a bounce, hit that support, and then bounce back upward. But it's not giving us a P3 entry. Okay. That's our bounce that I was looking for. Okay, that might have been what I was trading here. Is it came all the way up here and then it fell right back through the ADMA line. That shows me it had a little bit of momentum downward. So I entered right at the ADMA when I know it's probably in a trend change here. So that's a little bit of a risk. I know full well that it's trying to bounce off that resistance or support, and so this could easily be a trend change. So let's look for it to start the ADMA line. I'll never be able to say that word, but I think it's a tongue twister there. 8 EMA, exponential moving average. I'm looking for that to start turning back upward, like that. And I want to see a momentum back upwards towards the 5-minute ADMA. That could have been considered a, let's say, a 1, 2, 3, and might be successful going long right here, but we're in a good strong downtrend, and I need to see the crossover happen first, and I need to see an agreement with the 5-minute chart. Right now I'm just seeing a reversal bar, and the next bar could easily be, straight back down into the support. So, but on the 1-minute chart we are seeing a trend change attempt. But let's wait for a better 1, 2, 3 formation. No reason not to have everything perfect. You might say, well, why not enter right there? And I probably could, but I want to see a little bit more of a perfect 1, 2, 3. I'll go 1, 2, 3, somewhere down here. And then I want to see it move back up through that crossover point. So I might miss this trade right here. Just changed it to 3 contracts since we're over 2,000 now. Keep in mind this is before 8:30 in the morning, California time. So doing pretty well. So that right at that, if we entered right at that previous close as it's trying to move up, that would probably be a good trade right there. I just know, see, anytime it goes from a pretty good trend to a trend change, I never really trust it. I want to see a lot of kind of breaking action, because I know it always takes its time. Trend changes after a good trend has occurred are always kind of a big, slow process. Markets have a really hard time changing trends. It's trying, but I want to see that really good 1, 2, 3 formation. I think at the breakout of this high on the 1-minute chart of this previous bar right here, if it opens up leaving that fractal right here at 806, that would be a 1, 2, 3, and so a higher low here will be confirmed as it breaks above that resistance of this bar here. So that's when I'll be, that's where I'll make a decision right now, because that's going to be consistent with a breakout of that previous high on the 5-minute chart. Okay, that was a little bit of a delayed reaction, but yeah, that would have been ideal to get in before that. I hesitated too much on that. You can see it's right at the Bollinger Band, so again, keep the cursor on the exit button. I've been burned by a lot of these before. False crossover. Let's see what's happened on the. I like what's happening on the 5-minute chart as it's trying to get back to the ADMA line there. Okay. Wow. Got that. See, I still think we're in a 5-minute downtrend. That's a long ways from crossing over there, the ADMA line on the 5-minute chart. Although it sure shot up. But I've still got to take that as that downtrend is the bias. And if you look at this big top area as a number 1 point, number 2, number 3 point, that's pointed downwards. And so that was good for a retracement trade right there, but I'm still expecting that's in a 5-minute downtrend. So let's assume this might be a number 3 point on the 5-minute chart, and the next bar will trade back through that previous close here of this current bar. That was a move outside the Bollinger Band. For this to be a trend, I want to see a P3. I want to see it come down to that ADMA line. Okay, so if that's a P3 on the 5-minute chart, trading below that should come all the way back to the ADMA on the 1-minute chart and start to turn that downward. That's a large, what I would consider a large pullback after an outside close on the Bollinger Band. It's now flat. The bias is downward on the 5-minute chart. Let's see if we get a 1, 2, 3 high. Sometimes you don't on the that might have been a mistake. Again, how many times I've done that now? That same timing error of not waiting for that bar to go back up and then fall through that previous close. So the timing was off, but I'm still getting the direction right, which I guess is the important thing. But you know, we want to be as accurate as possible there. So we're up against support here, breaking through support here of the previous price bar on the 5-minute chart. I'm going to need to see it move back up, because the ideal place, as with the 1-minute chart where you want to enter, would be at the 5-minute 80 MA line, and we're too close to the Bollinger Band there. It's really amazing if you look at this, what it's doing right now. Most traders would look at that and say there's nothing predictable, but we have so much prediction based on these indicators at the crossover. It's just that I was really hesitant to get in that crossover until I got that 1, 2, 3 low pattern occurring first. So because I'm trading 3 contracts, so I want to really get it my way or no way. And so you see all the things we have to work with here. We had the 1, 2, 3 traded at the crossover. We see what it's doing at the 80 ME line here on the 5-minute chart. See, it's in a downtrend, and we're reading all these signals at once. It's a difficult skill to learn. Sometimes I think just having a regular job would be preferable, because this is extremely complex. Even if you were flying an airplane, it's probably more complex than something straightforward as where you have procedures and a checklist. With trading, nobody makes the rules, so you kind of gotta go with a system that works most of the time, but there's no guarantees on anything. So what I'm trying to do here is trade below that previous support on momentum. You can see the momentum really happening there. That was very visual as it broke through this support here. And we've got the Bollinger Bands moving downward. Again, ideally it would have been better to enter that trade up here, but I was probably talking too much. Thankfully, the volatility is enough to where it's hitting those targets. Not sure how many of these I'll do left, but as long as we got a little time till I usually like to trade the first 2 hours after the 6:30 open, so that would bring it to 8:30 Pacific time. And the reason for that is because if you were going to call up the broker and have them send you a check, you wanted it in the first 2 hours after the open, or it's too late, then you have to call them tomorrow. So, and after 8:30, usually the volatility has been dying off. So that's a good measure if you can trade the first 2 hours and get your everything you want done for the day. The rest is kind of a bonus. But usually the volatility has been dying off too much to worry about it after 8:30. Again, we're not really getting a P3 point here yet. This could be an inside bar, but since I'm trading 3 contracts, I'll just wait for it to be perfect. See, that would have, if I entered right there at that open, previous open, 1, 2, 3, 4, that would have easily hit my target. But I'll just be ultra safe here. That was also a trade through the previous close here, but we're too close to that lower Bollinger Band on the 5-minute chart. So yeah, it's probably not good until we get a P3 point on the 1-minute chart. Even then, we're so far away from that 5-minute ADMA. I don't want to be a short trader yet until I get close to that line. I don't want to be trading on the lower Bollinger Band here. Let's speed that up a little bit. The irony about a P3 point is it always bends that ADMA line inward, so it could, you always have the risk of it could be a 1, 2, 3 low, but that's another reason the 5-minute chart comes in handy, because you see what's really occurring here is a retracement of the 5-minute chart, just to bounce off that lower Bollinger Band, but that doesn't mean the downtrend is changing. So all that means is to look for a P3 point on the 1-minute chart. So let's try to be really accurate on a short trade right through that, back through that ADMA line. Sometimes this market replay doesn't enter it. In the real market, that would have entered me. That was too much of a delay, because that was entering on a stop, so that should have been fairly immediate. It would be in live trading. So got in too early. Do what I never say never to do, and move that stop loss. Stop loss is there for your protection, so the best policy is always, if you're wrong, just let it get hit, even though that sounds painful. This was the P3 point right here. See how it's coming back through that previous open, previous close. It has momentum going downward now. I think all day long I've been jumping the gun on the trade and entering too early, not waiting for the momentum to get me in on the trade, which is kind of a rookie mistake. See, I'm entering right at the previous close on the 5-minute chart, but this is still a long ways away from that ADMA line, so that's a risk. Okay, I think I missed that trade at 8:30. So basically, I think I've gone way over the time here. Anyway, as far as YouTube will allow, for some reason they've been allowing me to make these long, boring videos. I think because they haven't noticed me yet. I'm not getting enough. Nobody's watching my videos, and so now is probably a good time to end it. But look where we got from this. This is with making a lot of mistakes. We're at $3,565. That's starting with one contract. You can do the same thing, pyramiding, just adding a contract for every $1,000 you get in your account. Just add one contract traded because there's a $500 margin on it. So technically you could do two per 1,000, but so it's still conservative, adding one contract for each. So we could trade 3 contracts here. If we get to 4,000, I would trade 4 contracts. But just pyramiding like that, if you have the cojones to do it, you can see how quickly you can gain money. That's based on really confidence in your system there. And I don't know if I'm explaining the 5-minute chart as well as I should yet, but we'll get into that in a lot more detail as I make further videos here. Anyway, been running a little bit long, so I'll just end it right here, I guess. So have a good one.